Have you been allowed independence? Hey guys! So what is independence? Independence is being free from outside control, aka not having to depend on anyone else. But why is that important to have? Because it allows self-confidence, self-motivation, and a personal sense of accomplishment. We all need independence, and if we don't have that, we can become reliant or even victims. I know all too well what it's like to be under the control of other people. It's demeaning, it's awful, and it really kills your self-confidence. I cannot tell you how many times I've gotten in trouble, in a good way in this sense, from asking permission to do things like, can I take a friend over, is that okay? Or can I go to a friend's house, is that okay? And Lee points out to me, it's my life, I can be independent, I don't need permission. And that was all from being way too dependent a few years ago. Thankfully, I am nowhere near as bad now as I used to be with this, but I know a lot of people do still struggle with this. Now, the main reason I decided to do a video on this is not just because people need to know that they can be independent, but it's also to bring awareness to the fact that a lot of children with disabilities are wrapped up in cotton wool. I thankfully wasn't, because it wasn't until I was older that I knew I had a disability. And I want to point out to anyone who thinks they need to wrap their kid in cotton wool, you don't need to do this. The more you stop them from developing their independence, the worse it's going to be for them. If a child, disabled or not, grows up without being able to make their own decisions, one of two things is going to happen. One, they're going to rebel like crazy when they're like old enough to drink, old enough to smoke, or even before they're old enough. As soon as they have even a little bit of leeway, they're going to rebel and it's going to be bad. Or two, they're going to become submissive. They're going to be a target for controlling people, for power seekers. You don't want that. Both of these things can cause irreparable and irreversible hurt. They could end up doing things they don't want to do, or they could, like I say, rebel, and they could end up hurting themselves for the pure high of feeling free. Now, obviously, a kid can't make all their own decisions, but even the smallest allowance of decision making can make the hugest difference. Let them choose if they want to save their pocket money or spend it, and then teach them why both of these things can be a good or bad thing. Let them choose which meal to eat out of two. Do you want the chicken nuggets or do you want the fish supper? Let them decide whether they want to study history or science when they're older. Let them choose what they want to be when they grow up. That's one of the worst ones. Oh, you must be this when you're older. You need to have a good pay, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a dentist, you need to be whatever. Let them choose, because even if they end up in a very good job with very good money, what does that matter if they're really unhappy or not independent? There are so many little things, little choices that you can give them to let them know what freedom and independence feels like, and they can build on that, they can work on that, and they can come into their own. The more freedom you give your child, I mean obviously not too much, like I say, you don't want to just let them run rampant, but the more freedom and independence you give them, the more trusted they're going to feel, the more appreciated they're going to feel, the more motivated they're going to be. Teach them that they can make decisions and let them learn if it's a bad decision or not. The best lessons are learned from life itself, from living. And I know how cliche that sounds, but by God is it true. Let's take alcohol for example. If you tell a child alcohol's really bad, you don't drink, you don't do that, what's the first thing they're going to do when they're older? Oh, I know she said it's a bad thing, but why is it bad? I want to know. Let me kind of do this. You know, they're gonna go mad. They're gonna have a drink. They're gonna get drunk. You never know what could happen. The way I was brought up, I was allowed a pinky dip. So basically, if my mum had a glass of wine or something or a drink, I was allowed to dip my pinky in and taste it. And that took the mystery away from alcohol for me. So I was brought up like, well, I know what it tastes like. I don't like it. Or I do like it in Southern Comfort, I really like the taste of it. So when I kept coming back for pinky dips of the Southern Comfort, my mum was like, whoa, no, now you're having me on. But it took away the mystery from me. Now I still went off the rails, like I told you, but I only went off the rails because I felt like everything was crumbling. I got 2 diagnoses, was in 6 months, and I was told I couldn't go to school. So for me it was different, but up until that point I was like, well, it's alcohol, it's not a big thing, you know? And that was because the mystery wasn't there. I was allowed to make the decision, do you want to have a try of this or not? And that is a huge thing. I believe that is a great way of doing it. Now obviously you can't do this with everything. You're not going to go and give heroin to your kid, are you? That's different. But when it's something like alcohol, just take away that mystery, just take away that kind of feeling like, well, why is it bad? You said it's bad, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. You know what kids are like. And on top of that, if they then still ask, oh, well, you know, why can't I drink it when I'm this age? Instead of saying, oh, I'll explain when you're older. I hate that term, I'll explain when you're older. If a kid asks, tell them. Just, you know, sitting down, like with alcohol, again, I'll use it as an example since we're talking about it anyway. Oh, so why am I not allowed to drink then? It tastes nice, why am I not allowed to have it? Well, you're not actually old enough to drink by law. You know, explain that to them and you have to be really careful and explain why you have to be careful with drink, that it's okay in moderation. If you teach them that from a young age and make sure they remember it, that's going to be so much better when they're older. I'm not guaranteeing they're not going to go off the rails. You never know. It's all circumstantial. But still, it takes away the mystery, makes them feel trusted with that information. And another thing about giving independence is don't use the whole, no, I don't want you to, or no, don't ask me again, or no, don't do this, don't do that. It's one of the most commonly used things. It's also one of the worst for breeding dependence, for not allowing independence. If you're just like, no, don't do that, they're going to associate that with aggression. That activity they're going to associate with aggression. They're going to think that asking you anything, they're just going to get aggression. But if you say, no, I'd rather you didn't do that because this is why. That way they're like, oh, so you're not just saying no, you have a reason behind it. That's what's going on up here in their heads. They're going, oh, well, they gave me a reason. I can't really tell if it's a good reason. And then they might ask more and you can explain, well, this could happen or that kind of thing. Even allowing them decisions that you think are bad. Like I said, allow them to make the decisions, allow them to find out why it's a bad thing. For example, if they ask you, oh, can I go out in the garden? And in your head you're thinking, oh my god, you're in brand new clothes, it's so muddy out there, no. And you go to them, no, you're not going. They're going to be like, in their head, what the hell? What? Fine. But if you explain to them, I'd rather you didn't, they're your brand new clothes. If you get them muddy, they might be ruined. And then you can possibly say to them, you know, if you change into some older clothes, you can go out and play, but if you get dirty, it's your responsibility to then clean up. That gives them the choice of, can I be bothered changing into other clothes? Do I really want to go outside that badly? I really want to wear this. And if they argue with you, when they're like, oh, but I want to go out in these clothes, then you can be like, no, I've told you I don't want you going out in those clothes. So because they will get dirty, so no, you're not going out. That gives them that little opportunity to go, ooh, I can seize that moment. If I change into old clothes, I can get what I want, as long as I clean up. And that also gives them that responsibility. I think a lot of the problem is too many parents nowadays. I'm sorry if you're a nowadays parent, I'm not meaning everyone, just a lot of people rely on the schools to teach them. That's awful. Schools don't teach them this kind of thing. They don't teach them respect. They don't teach them how to even hold a pencil, but that's a different matter. They don't teach them a lot of things. You as a parent, you need to teach them these things. You can't rely on schools to teach your kid everything. Teach them respect. Teach them independence. Teach them responsibility. All this kind of thing. To use an old quote, mother is God in the eyes of a child. That's so true. Whether you're religious or not, it's nothing to do with that. A God is someone you look up to, you revere, someone you follow an example of. That is how children see their parents. Unless you're being aggressive towards them, unless you're being unkind towards them. No, you're not doing that because I said so. Don't give them aggression, give them responsibility, give them reasons, give them independence. That way, when they're older, they can take the decision, do you know what, maybe I'm not going to do that because it's a bit dangerous, or maybe I'm going to do it but I'm going to be a bit more careful just in case. And they'll remember what you said, they'll remember what you told them. But just give them that opportunity to grow as an adult while they're a child. I know it's a case of, oh, they have to have their childhood. That is true, but childhood is when they learn the most. So give them that freedom, give them the options, give them the responsibilities, and they'll grow up to be fantastic people. I mean, obviously there's no guarantee. Some people are just awful anyway. But most kids, when given that opportunity, will grow up to be strong people, to be independent people. They won't let people tell them what to do. Because like I say, some won't rebel, some will just take that on board and be like, well, you know what, okay, fine. So what I'm saying is independence is so important. If your child doesn't have it, especially when they have disabilities, they're going to think, I'm not worth it. I don't get independence. I don't get to be independent. You know, I know I've kind of been talking about children in general, but with disabled children, and extremely so with disabled children, be that mental health or physical, allow them the independence, because if they become reliant, what if something happens? What if one day they are on their own and they have no one, or they've got to rely on a care service, or they've got to rely on someone else to come around and help them with stuff? You've got to give them independence. And I know there are a lot of disabilities where they can't do certain things on their own, but that's different. Even if they only have a few choices they can make for themselves, let them make it. Let them grow. Let them feel worth it. Let them feel independent, responsible. Let them feel, do you know what? I don't care if I've got a disability. I can do this. You know, I'm headstrong. I am independent. I can do this. That's what you want. You don't want someone who's submissive, and you don't want someone who is going to become a victim to power seekers and control freaks. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you did, hit subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next video next Wednesday. Bye bye!